All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to you in the name of Jesus. This is your brother Elisha Israel of the House of Faith, and I count it truly a blessing each and every time I come before you preach the Word of God, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. Just a little bit about the House of Faith. We meet every Sabbath at 59 West 25th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We invite you to come out and worship with us, where you can hear the uncut, unadulterated Word of God. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's message, and that is a question that the brother Bobby Sankofa he actually called and asked if I could deal with this as far as tithing in these days, because the common teaching is that you don't have to tithe. You know, the tithe was just only for the Levites, and you don't have to tithe. Okay. So first of all, what is a tithe? If you don't know, tithe literally means a tenth. Okay, the concept or the principle was that you would take a tenth of all that you had and you would give. In the old days, it was the Levites. We're going to see some other reasons in which they tithe. Okay, we also want to see that it was even before Levi, the principle of tithing. So a tenth to tithe is a tenth. Okay, a tenth part of what you have. All right. So first thing I want to read is in the 24th division of Psalms, and something we really need to understand about God before we even start talking about tithing. Okay, so this is Psalms 24, and we'll pick it up at verse 1. Psalms 24 and verse 1. David writes, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein." Okay, so what do we need to understand? First and foremost, that everything belongs to God. See that you taking a little a tenth of your okay, let me rephrase it. Me taking a tenth of my pool butt salary is not like I'm actually doing something for God. Really, what can you do for God? What can you actually do for him of your own? He's God, right? So that's what you need to understand, that everything belongs to him. Rather, brothers and sisters, the tithe is an acknowledgement. Okay, it's an acknowledgement of who he is. It's like a king whom you will pay tribute to, or show proper honor. And not only that, it goes beyond that, because he's the one that's actually providing for you. Let's go to Genesis. Let's go to Genesis, the 14th chapter. And this acknowledgement, brothers and sisters, through the principle of tithing, is before Levi even comes into existence, before there's an Israel. See, Israel traces their lineage back to Jacob, right? Back to Abraham. He's got an Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, so let's see what Abraham, the patriarch, was doing. This is Genesis, the 14th chapter. I want to pick it up at verse 19, because he comes back from rescuing Lot. Okay. And it says in verse 18, "And Melchizedek, king of Salem." Now, this Melchizedek, it says, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. So we're going to deal with that a little bit later as far as this Melchizedek. And it said, he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth." Again, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. But so it says he blessed him, right? And then it said, "And blessed be the Most High God, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand," right? See, it's an acknowledgement, because it said, "And he gave him tithes of all." There was no Levitical priesthood at this time, right? This Melchizedek, understand, this is not some regular man, but we'll deal with that a little later. But he says, "And blessed be the Most High God, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand." Again, it is an acknowledgement that your sustenance, your bread, right, your protection, right, it comes from not yourself. It comes from God. And so when you give, when you would take a part of your income and say, I'm going to use it for this tithe. It's an acknowledgement of who he is. And this principle, I want to make it clear that this principle is in place before the law is officially given. And Abraham wasn't the only one to do this. Let's go to Genesis, the 28th chapter. See, people talking about you don't have to tithe. Well, they were tithing. This is a principle that the patriarchs had. Why did they have this principle? This is Genesis, the 28th chapter. Pick it up at verse 20. Genesis 28 and verse 20. It says, and Jacob vowed a vow. And let me say this. It's one thing people say, well, you don't have to tithe. You don't want to. The question you should be asking, why not? If this is a principle that you see, why wouldn't you tithe? If the patriarchs are dealing with it, if when you read in the law is there, why can't you deal with this principle? I'm going to show you when it becomes a problem. But this is Genesis, the 28th chapter, verse 20. It says, and Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on. See, we think we get these things of ourselves, brothers and sisters. That's not the case. That is not the case, because he could simply say, no, and it will not happen. He could simply say, give me back the bread, and you would give it up. So he said, if God will be with me. See, this is an acknowledgement of God when you tithe. It said, and will keep me in this way that I will go and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace. Then shall the Lord be my God. Then it said, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. Okay, that means Bethel. Okay, which is the house of God, and you see that throughout the scriptures, throughout the history of Israel. That word, that name, God's house, Bethel. Excuse me. And it says, and of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the 10th unto thee. So I said, all that you give me, I'm going to give a 10th unto thee, because what is it acknowledging? That you getting it from God. See, what's happened, brothers and sisters, is that there's been a problem. It's not the tithe, it's the false ministers that's asking for the tithe. Why are they asking for a tithe? They're asking for a tithe so they can get over. See, and that's when it becomes a problem. Okay, but let me continue. This is let's go to. Well, let me read this again, because it says, he says. And he says in verse 20, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God, right? And then he said, I will give him a 10th part of all. And let's go to Genesis 35, because in Genesis 35, he acknowledged that God did this. This is Genesis 35 and verse 3. It says, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress. Again, see, the tithe is just an acknowledgement. Then it says, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went. See, he said, if you will be my God, I will give you 10th part of all. Abraham, the patriarch, paid Melchizedek a 10th. Now let's go to Leviticus the Leviticus the 27th chapter. Leviticus the 27th chapter. This is verse 30. Because here we see the law the tithe introduced. And it says in verse 30, and all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. See, the 10th is the Lord. Again, it's acknowledgement of who he is, right? It's just like the firstborn. He said, hey, the firstborn of man and beast, that's mine. See, you acknowledging him. So it said, if a man will at all redeem all of his tithes, he shall add thereto the 5th part thereof. So now there was an issue. You'd have to add a fifth part to that. But see, understand these people were dealing, this is an agricultural society. So they're dealing in the things. It's not like us. We live in an urban, many of us live in an urban area. We're dealing with this fiat currency. Okay? But so now the law is introduced. Okay? So it said, concerning the tithe of the herd of the flock, even of whatsoever passes under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. Okay? Now, let's go to Numbers 18, because this is what you hear many Israelites saying, well, that was just for the Levites, right? So, and they read this. It says, and it was for the Levites. That was in part for the Levites. But understand, we read earlier where there was tithe there and there was no Levi. There was no Israel in existence. All right? Numbers 18 and verse 21, it says, and behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel for an inheritance, for their service which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. There was no temple here at that time. They dealing with the tabernacle. That was like a tent, okay? A large tent they dealing with. So like they gave them, again, this principle. You read this same principle in the New Testament. A workman is worthy of his hire, right? When it's talking about the man of God that's feeding you the word, right? The Levites doing the priestly duties you need to take care of. Okay? And this is the principle that's set forth. Because they are doing the work, or should be doing the work of God. Because you have instances in the scripture, even when the Levites were not doing that. Okay, and even the Levites, brothers and sisters, just so you know, even the Levites, they had to pay a tenth. So it says in in Numbers, in the same chapter, 18 and verse 26, it says, thus speaking to the Levites and said to them, when ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given you from them for your inheritance. So now I provided you with this. He said, then you shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a tenth part of the tithe. So you need to take a tenth of what you get and offer. Everybody's supposed to acknowledge who God is. See, that's what it was about. See, these false ministers, these greedy dogs, see, they are the ones that have made it about getting over on the people. Okay? That's what they've done. Let's go to Numbers, the 14th chapter. We'll see another reason why this principle of tithe was in place. This is Numbers 14 and verse 28. Numbers 14 and verse 28. And it reads, what does it say? Hold on one second, brothers and sisters. All right. Give me 1 second. I said Numbers 14. Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. I gotta find this. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I thought it was in Numbers. That's Deuteronomy. Yeah, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 14. I said Numbers 14. Deuteronomy 14. And verse 28. Because here we see some more laws regarding tithing. Okay. But it says something here. In verse 28, it says, at the end of 3 years, thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thine increase the same year, and shall lay it up within thy gates. And the Levite, because he had no part nor inheritance with thee, and the stranger, and the widow, which are within thy gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied. So the tithe wasn't just for Levi, it was also for those that were in need. It says, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hand which thou doest. So now he said you do it, you get blessed from God. The other ones, he said, in another place, it's acknowledgement of you can gather, it's an acknowledgement of who he is. Right? Let's go to Proverbs. See, it's a principle, brothers and sisters. And if our forefathers were doing it, I'm trying to figure out why it's a problem now. It's a problem because they have profaned the practice and the principle, these false ministers. But if you dealing in, why in the world wouldn't you want to tithe at a place where you getting fed? I can understand if somebody lying to you, if they lead you to hell, you don't get them a quarter. Don't even go to that place. But why wouldn't you tithe if that's a principle to do the Lord's work if people are doing the Lord's work? This is because you need money. You need money. You see that with the congregations in the New Testament. They gather money for the poor. They gather money off. You need money. Paul said one place, hey, when I get there, have the money ready. You need money to do it, to do anything. Like I said, we were blessed to have a building. We just purchased a building. The building paid for. Well, how you think it got paid for? We didn't go in there with no monopoly money. We were able to pay for it in full because the Lord has blessed us and people gave. That's how. It ain't like we were taking the money and me and my father taking the money, get rid. We ain't taking none of the money for ourselves to do nothing. The money is for the church. Not saying again, a man of God can't be paid. That's not biblical for me to say. But I'm trying to figure out how it's a problem. I pay tithes. How is that a problem? If you think about it, my father and I do the work, the ministry, we don't take the pay, and we pay tithes. I'm trying to figure out why it's a problem. This is Proverbs. We're going to pick it up in Proverbs, the 3rd chapter and verse 9. Again, a principle, brothers and sisters. It says, honor the Lord with thy substance and with the first fruits of all thy increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. See, again, it's a principle to give, to receive. See, what it is you got some pimping going on where people feed you a bunch of lies and they fleecing the flock and they getting all these things from the people, getting rich. Like when I was growing up, I can remember being in church and that stuff never sat right with me because they make a big show. They make a big show for all the people who would donate money. I remember my mother's, they was like, who gonna step out? who gonna step out on faith and give $500? Who gonna step out on faith? We were talking big money back then, $1,000. And I remember my mother standing up, and I'm looking. I don't want to embarrass her, but I'm looking, and I just look down because I said, I know we don't have the money, but it's about faith. But see, they were a bunch of liars, and they were getting the money from the people. I done been in church, my cousin's church. My cousin, we grew up like brothers. Sometimes I'd go to their church growing up. Man, that Negro, big pimping. Church bought him a brand new car. Church bought him a big house. He walked around with fur coats. He would line you up 150 here, 20s here, 10s of 5s here, singles here, and don't bring me no change. He would literally line people up like that. Today, I ain't been in one since then, but you got churches today, they got ATMs in the church. It's a church not too far from where I live at. They get your W-2s. They want to ensure that they get every dime, but dying to you. See, that's one thing about it. we're not lying. And it's a principle that's good, brothers and sisters, when you are dealing with the truth. And we understand that there's no temple today. But brothers, you got congregations all over the country and in other places that dealing in the truth, they need money. So why, when you deal with a principle that was there when the law was given, but it was even there before the law was given? This is let me show you when it becomes a problem, though. This is give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, because it becomes a problem when you're not dealing with the truth. This is Isaiah the 55th chapter and verse 1. So he says here, "Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye buy and eat. Yea, come buy wine and money. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price." Right? So he's saying it's not like you did. He's putting this in figurative terms. He's talking about those things that sustain you. Right? So he's saying, get these things without paying. Get this truth, get this word of God. But then he says something. "Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread?" Wait a minute. Why are you paying for something that's not sustaining you? And that's what people are doing in these churches, right? And they've made a big of things, but really at times just the acknowledgement of who he is, brothers and sisters. And then let me go here, because many of these ministers, these false prophets will go here. They say the law is done away with, but then they will read this here. This is Malachi, the 3rd chapter, and verse 8. They say, "Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have you we? In tithes and offerings." And let me say something else on another note. So you got these ministers, false ministers, that would go here, that would say you supposed to be tithing, but they didn't deal with the law at all, right? But the principle again was there before the law was officially given. Secondly, brothers and sisters, you would say you don't have. Some would say you have to tithe, but you don't have the offerings. Brothers and sisters, was an old principle as well. It's not just even tithes; it's tithes and offerings. See, that's what people don't understand. What you think when they were dealing with animals, again, that was an agricultural society. They were dealing in animal sacrifices, and they were dealing in different types of offerings. Well, where do you think that came from? It didn't come out of the thin air. They took from what they had to make it so. That's a principle. That's what I'm saying. These are principles. So he says, and that were made laws. So he says, ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Okay, so that's it. That's what he's saying. He's saying, I'm gonna bless you if you do this. I'm still trying to figure out if you dealing. We ain't got to do that no more. What if you doing it? What's wrong with it? If you dealing in truth, I'm still don't understand that. But let's go to Amos, because this is even more than tithes. He talks about this in Amos. He says in Amos 4:4, he said, come to Bethel, that's the house of God, and transgress at Gilgal, multiply transgression, and bring your sacrifices every morning and your tithes after 3 years. Now we read about that. He said, offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving with leaven, and proclaim and publish the free offerings, for this liketh you, O you children of Israel, saith the Lord God. See, it wasn't just like they were just giving tithes. They were giving tithes and offerings. They were giving tithes and offerings. Let's go to Hebrews. This is the last place. Hebrews, the 7th chapter. So when, you know, brothers and sisters, again, it is simply a principle. It is a principle, and you see it officially given within the law. And it is an acknowledgement of God being your provider. Now this is and so we're gonna end where we started. This is Hebrews, the 7th chapter. It said, for this Melchizedek, all right, this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God. Now, who is this priest of the Most High God? He gave you a hint of who he was when you saw his instruments of his priesthood, bread and wine. Why bread and wine? That's what the Messiah took up. Once again, understand what he is. He is a king, and he's also a priest. And when he came the first time, fulfilling his duty as the high priest of the Most High God. That's what he's doing right now, as our high priest sitting at the right hand of the Father, interceding on our behalf like a high priest would. He sacrificed not animals, not bulls and goats, but rather the blood that he came with his own blood before the throne of God as a sacrifice for man, as an atonement for man. See, what you see in the Day of Atonement was a figure of what Jesus did. Okay? So when you read about, so he just took that, he gave that office to Levi for a time, and then took that office back, and he occupies that office now. And when he come back, he gonna take the office of king. He had occupied it. You read about it in the days of Samuel, when they required a king. He said, "Go ahead, give him one." Because they doing this basically, but I was the one that was reigning over them. When he comes back, he's going to be king of kings. He's already high priest. See, so the one Abraham met was none other than the word of the Messiah, the one we call Jesus in English, before he was manifested in the flesh. And that's why he paid tithes to him. It said, for this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. Again, this is after he recovered Lot. It said, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all. They was given a 10th before there was Levi. So you shouldn't say, well, ain't no Levi said we don't have to give a 10th. He was gives a principle that existed before Levi was brought forth. It says, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all, first being by interpretation king of righteousness, and after that also king of Salem, which is king of peace. And we should know who this Melchizedek is. It says, without father, without mother, without descent, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like unto the Son of God, abideth a priest continually. See, the priests used to, under the Levitical priesthood, they started with Aaron, they used to die out of office. But this one, hey, he can't die. So it said, now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave the 10th part, they gave the 10th of the spoils. And verily they that are the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law, right? That was in the law. That is of their brethren, though they came out of the loins of Abraham. He said, be he whose descent is not counted from them, received tithes of Abraham, and blessed him that had the promises. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better, right? So who was blessed? Understand, the one Abraham paying tithes to was greater than him. Who was greater than Abraham? None other than the Son. That's who this was, Jesus, before he's manifested in the flesh. He's paying tithes then. Again, this is on our principles. He said, here men that died receive tithes, but there he receiveth them of whom it is witness that he liveth. And as I may say so, Levi also, who receiveth tithes, paid tithes in Abraham, for he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. This is an old principle, brothers and sisters. And it goes beyond you just say, well, the Levites on here, because it wasn't, again, it goes beyond just providing for the Levites. It is an acknowledgement. Just like Jacob said, You know, if you provide and be my God, I will give a 10. It's an acknowledgement, brothers and sisters, of who he is and what he is. Because really, what can you give him? Because when you really understand, all of it belongs to him in the first place. And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we're at the Household of Faith, meet every Sabbath, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time at 5925 West 25th Avenue, Gary, Indiana, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come on out, worship with us, where you can hear the uncut, unadulterated word of God. I like to say peace to everybody that's listening. So it's my prayer that you were edified. And with that, brothers and sisters, Lord willing, I will see you on the Sabbath.